Third race of the season complete at the Australian Grand Prix. First time that F1 has been to Australia since COVID. They were at Australia back in 2020 when it all started. No cars were on the track that weekend though, as it happened like a Wednesday, Thursday or something. And so there was no cars on track. So this is actually the first race in Australia since 2019. And it was dominated, actually grand slammed by Charles Leclerc. He led every single lap of the race. He had the fastest lap. He won the race, and he won it from pole. So, yeah, I mean, there's actually quite a bit to talk about from this race. There wasn't like a ton of on-track action, I guess. There were some good battles, and there were a few things that happened that we got to talk about, but nothing too insane or crazy. No intense battle for the win like in Jeddah. No crazy DNFs at the last few laps like at Bahrain, but we did see a Red Bull DNF late in the race. I guess kind of late-ish in the race, but yeah, it's currently 2 a.m. here in the U.S., so I'm going to do my best here. I think this is the first time I've ever done a 2 a.m. video, but yes, Australia. Apparently there was a record crowd at the race last year. That record was 400,000 at the U.S. Grand Prix. I was at that. Very fun time. But Australia turned around and beat it this year. I think they said 420,000 fans attended the race. Not the race, but the race weekend. So over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So a new record in F1. Yeah, so that was cool. Great to see Australia back, or F1 back in Australia. So to everyone who was at the race, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time. If you did, let me know in the comments what you thought of the race, how it was at the track. But yeah, some of the big topics from this race weekend. Red Bull. I mean, Perez gets a second place, gets on the podium. Great for him. He's been a little bit unlucky these first couple of races. Had a podium going at Bahrain before the engine decided just to quit on him in the last lap in the first turn at Bahrain. Had maybe a race win at Saudi Arabia before a poorly timed safety car, and he ended up finishing fourth. And then today he was on the podium most of the day. Had a good battle with Lewis Hamilton, with George Russell at one point for a position, and ends up finishing second. So a really good day for him. But Max Verstappen, on the other hand, 2 DNFs in the first 3 races of the season. Red Bull, they're very fast. They've shown that they can compete with Ferrari, but reliability is an issue. We talked about this in the first race. If that problem of these, DNFs continue to happen, Red Bull they're shooting themselves in the foot, and it's gonna potentially cost them a chance at either championship, whether it be the drivers or the constructors. And right now it's hurting both. Verstappen only has 25 points in the first 3 races, and Red Bull third in the constructors, I believe Perez getting that second place finish helps them out a lot in the constructors. But in terms of Verstappen, the defending champion, trying to defend his championship, these DNFs are not going to help. Perez actually ahead of Verstappen in the driver's standings right now. He sits 4th in the standings, I believe, behind Sainz, George Russell, and Charles. So Charles gets a win. He extends his world championship lead. I mean, really a dominating performance. Really don't even need to say anything about it. He had one challenge for the lead on one of the restarts from a safety car. And after turn 1, he was gone again. I mean, he dominated this race. He was the best driver all weekend, had the best car all weekend. So, I mean, well-deserved win. He absolutely demolished everyone this weekend. But other big topics, Mercedes looked much better this weekend than they did last weekend, or last race at Saudi Arabia. Lewis Hamilton was out in Q1. George Russell finished 5th or 6th, and Hamilton only got 1 point. They were the 3rd best car at Bahrain. They weren't anywhere near Ferrari or Red Bull, but they weren't, in a fight with anyone for, 5th or 6th. And then the Red Bulls had their problem, and Hamilton got a podium at Bahrain. Today, yes, they did take advantage of the struggle of Verstappen, and then also, Sainz. We'll talk about him later. But, they took full advantage of it, and, to get points, to get podiums, you got to finish the race. And Verstappen, he didn't finish the race, so he didn't get those points. He didn't get that podium, so well-deserved podium for George Russell, his first podium with Mercedes. Of course, this is his first podium that the full race distance was actually completed. Last year he got one with Williams after Belgium, because remember the whole Spa rain, it was based off qualifying, and don't get me wrong, great performance, but does that really count as a race? Anyways, great performance by Russell today. Beats his teammate Lewis Hamilton. He's beat him in 2 of the first 3 races, actually. But overall, really good day for Russell. He looked pretty good. Had a little good battle with Perez there for a bit before getting past. But he looked really good all day long. Has looked good over the past. He's really looked good this year. I mean, Mercedes definitely turned up the speed this weekend because they looked really bad at Saudi Arabia. They looked really good this weekend. They're definitely the 3rd best car, but they have closed that gap, I think, a little bit. There was one stint, I think that first stint, where they were actually, I think it was Hamilton actually closing in on Perez. Perez had passed Hamilton after losing the position at the start. But Hamilton later in the run started running down Perez and was about to pass him before Perez eventually pitted. Then they had a nice little battle there after the pit stop for that position. But Mercedes, they were a much improved team this week. But McLaren, they were much improved this week. No points in that first race, a terrible first race. I think they were 14th, 15th. Second race, Lando gets them points. Ricciardo did not finish. This weekend, a double points finish, a 5th for Norris and 6th for Daniel Ricciardo in his home race. I guess at this point we're just doing the results. Let's talk about the results of the race right now. Okay, so Charles Leclerc won. If I haven't mentioned that already, he extends his championship lead and he gives Ferrari another win. His 4th career win. All of his wins have come from pole position. And we already said it. He dominated this weekend. So not much more to say there. He extends his lead, but they lose, I think, 1 or 2 points in the Constructors to Mercedes. But on Charles Leclerc's side of things, perfect weekend for him. He did everything right. They dominated this weekend. Second place, Sergio Perez, his first podium of 2022. He honestly looks really comfortable in that car. Wheel-to-wheel battles, qualifying. He's been consistently on the front 2 rows. I mean, he looks really good in that car right now. If it wasn't for, as I said, bad luck in those first 2 races, he could honestly be in the title fight right now in terms of the drivers. Yes, we're only 3 races in. Is it really a good time to talk about the title fight? Not really. We got to still let some more races happen before we can really get into that. But if Perez had better luck, maybe he might be up there. But also you have to factor in the reliability of the Red Bull. Right now is not very good. They've had 3 DNFs in the first 3 races, 2 for Verstappen, 1 for Perez. So they got to get those problems fixed, or neither of the drivers, Perez or Verstappen, will be in the fight for the Drivers' Championship. And then obviously, if they're not in that fight, they will not be in the fight for the Constructors if they continue to have 0 points from one or both of their drivers. So Red Bull, they're very fast right now, but as I said, I know it's early to talk about the title fight, but if we were to talk about it, it's tough to really consider. I mean, they've got the speed, they've got the pace, but if they can't finish races, they can't get those points to be in the title fight. Third place, George Russell, great performance from him. His first podium for Mercedes, really, really good performance for him. Beats Hamilton, as I said earlier. Hamilton, 4th place. Good day for him. Good, solid points day, and a really good points day for Mercedes in terms of the Constructors. As for the drivers, I mean, Leclerc's got like a 40-point lead right now, 35. I think it's 35, maybe 34, something like that. So a really big lead for Leclerc right now. So if Mercedes is looking at something, I think Constructors is something they got to look at. But, really good weekend for them, a 3rd and a 4th. 5th place, Lando Norris. Really good result for him. McLaren has struggled the first 2 weekends. Really bad first weekend at Bahrain. A better second week at Saudi Arabia. But Ricciardo didn't finish. Norris did get some points. But both drivers in the points with Norris in 5th. And Ricciardo in his home race gets a 6th place finish. I believe they said that's his 125th points finish in his career. So pretty cool that it happened at his home race. So, that was a big topic this week in Daniel Ricciardo's home race. And, really happy for him. Really happy that he was able to get some points, be up there and be competitive, make some moves. Really good day for Ricciardo. Really good day for McLaren considering how those first 2 race weekends went. So McLaren and Mercedes, definitely the 2 most improved teams over the weekend or over this week. Considering where they were just a couple weeks ago, they looked much, much, much better this weekend than they did. So that's got to be a very promising sign for them, and hopefully they can continue that success, or that's what they're hoping. 7th, Ocon. Ocon, a pretty decent day. Alpine had some really good speed. Alonso was actually had the fastest lap going before a hydraulics issue, which prevented him from shifting, and he was involved, or he crashed as a result of the hydraulics issue, and he ends up out of the points, I believe, but he was about to be on the front 2 rows if he didn't get the pole. He was putting down a monster lap, but just like the Red Bulls, Alpine's having some reliability issues. I think they're on engine number 3 for Alonso. So just like Red Bull, Alpine's got some reliability problems. Bottas finishes 8th, a good result for him in the Alfa Romeo. Some more points for Alfa and some more points for Bottas. His Q3 streak ended at, I think, 103 straight races. Did not make Q3, but he does finish in the points. Good day for him. 9th, Pierre Gasly. Good day for him. 10th, Alex Albon. Good for him in the Williams. Only his 3rd race in the Williams, and he scores points. Did it quicker than Russell and Latifi combined. Ooh. Albon is the greatest Williams driver of all time, confirmed. No, not really, but really happy for Albon. I think there's a rule that says you have to pit in order to not be disqualified from the race. So honestly, if that rule didn't exist, Albon would have finished 7th. He did not pit the whole race until the last lap when they put softs on, and he basically just put down a qualifying lap. But he was on 56 lap old hard tires, and he was running 7th. That's insane. And then he came out of the pits, and still found a way to finish in the point. Great performance. I personally think he should have been considered for driver of the day. Very impressive performance by Albon. Zhou Guanyu finished 11th, 12th Lance Stroll. Aston Martin had a horrendous weekend. 4 total crashes, 2 from Stroll, 2 from Vettel. A mechanical failure for Vettel in first practice. What didn't go wrong for Aston Martin this weekend? That crash in qualifying was Stroll's fault, by the way. In my opinion, I think that was Stroll's fault. But what a horrendous weekend. Lawrence Stroll is about to be out of money if it continues to be like this. So he needs to sit down with the drivers, sit down with the team and say, look, we can't do this anymore. But also, major props to the Aston Martin mechanics, because they had to work overtime for a lot because of crashes, because of incidents in practice and qualifying. And to get both those cars on the grid and to get both those cars laps in qualifying is a miracle. They deserve a race, so big shout out to them. Where were we? Stroll, right. 13th, Mick Schumacher. 14th, Kevin Magnussen. Haas, after a really good first 2 weeks, they seemed a little bit off compared to those first 2 weeks. So unlike Mercedes and McLaren, who we talked about were much improved, Haas seemed to slide back a bit. So that was a little bit disappointing to see both of them out of the points and not really compete for the points at all. 15th, Yuki Tsunoda. 16th, Nicholas Latifi. 17th, Fernando Alonso. He had to pit late. I don't know if he had a puncture or what, but he had to pit late. He was running around the points, fighting for the points, but ends up 17th. Just really bad luck this weekend. Pure bad luck. He had honestly a top 5 car. The way he was driving it on Saturday. Started on those hard compound tires and just didn't get a great start. Fought back into the points, and then they pitted, and they were fighting for those points, but then something happened late. And then the DNFs, Max Verstappen, as we said earlier, you got to finish if you want those points. You can't be running podium positions, running second place, and have these DNFs. Obviously, it's not on Max Verstappen individually. It's on the all of Red Bull. They got to figure out whatever problems they're having. Christian Horner said it might be a fuel issue, which I think was the issue in the first race when both their cars did not finish. So if that truly is the issue again, they got to get that fixed. 19th, Sebastian Vettel. As I said earlier, Aston Martin. Yikes. And then last, Carlos Sainz. The Spaniards had bad luck this week. And we talked about Alonso's bad luck, but Sainz's bad luck, I mean, he was on his fast lap in qualifying in Q3, and that is when Alonso crashed. And so he had to wait till like the last couple of minutes of qualifying to put down his fastest lap, and it was only good enough for 9th. Then they decided to try a different strategy for him because he's so far back. Maybe try to help Charles out. Maybe try something different to get a better position. And he goes from 9th to 14th by the first couple of turns, and he's struggling to get grip, to get temperature in the tires. And then he just completely misses turns 9 and 10, spins out, and he gets stuck in the gravel, and his day was over on lap 2. That honestly might be the textbook definition of how to have the worst weekend possible. Being one of the best cars, arguably the best car, probably the best car, have a really bad timed red flag in qualifying and start 9th, try a different strategy, fall back to 14th, spin and DNF on lap 2. Like, that's, I felt bad for him. I mean, that's just purely terrible. But overall, the race wasn't like out of this world. It wasn't as good as those first 2 races, I think, but it was all right. Nothing too exciting, but it's like 2:15 a.m. now, so I need to get some sleep, so I'm going to edit this, put this up. But if you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk about F1, NASCAR, all other kinds of racing on here. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your night, great rest of your morning, night, morning, evening, afternoon. I don't know where you are, but just be happy.